Hello, Nori here. Welcome to another episode of Love and Deep Space. So today I'll be picking up from where I last left off, which was my last video, Objectification in Games, how much of it is too much. Now, that was an essay, a formal essay, a skeletal framework, if you will. This is my personal notes, my personal observations, and this video is going to be through my personal lens, right? Now, I was stewing over this topic mentally for days, and I had a lot of difficulty trying to assimilate my thoughts because they were all over the place. My feelings were also all over the place. So I'm still finding it a little difficult because there are also nuances. There are also things that I was carefully trying to consider. Anyhow, I would like to start this video with a very famous quote. It is by Margaret Atwood. And the quote goes like this. You are a woman with a man inside watching a woman. You are your own voyeur. It is a quote from Margaret Atwood's novel, The Robber Bride, 1993. Now, this quote really stuck with me. And I begin to ponder upon how ingrained the idea of male gaze is within the context of objectification and validation, all of those things. I feel like they're all correlated or interrelated to one another, right? And this becomes especially evident when you look at the way women's objectification is rampant throughout different medias. Like you have anime, you have fashion, you have movies, music videos, games, obviously, since we're talking about games. It's extremely rampant. And the biggest example that I gave you in my last video was about Cantarella. Cantarella's story is supposed to be very tragic. It's supposed to be very amazing, beautiful, or whatever. But when she was released, what was the reaction? Everybody's gawking about Cantarella's body. Nobody thought about, I wonder what this character would what kind of a backstory this character would have. No, it was straight off voyeuristic discourse about Cantarella's body. It was so... I felt so disgusted at that point because I was just like, guys, can you stop? It was, I don't know, it was just so disgusting at that point in time that I couldn't shake it off. So when everybody then started talking about, the game, the story is so good, the story is amazing, she's an MVP, blah blah blah. Who's going to care about the story and whatever Cantarella did after you go through the story? It's like, we have newfound respect. Newfound respect where? The story will be over. You go through the story, it's going to be over, and then what? She'll be clad in the same skimpy outfit that we've seen, And the way they tore her into her before that whole story discourse happened, it was all about Cantarella's body. It reminds me of that movie called Jennifer's Body, which was equally bad. It was a horror movie, though. It was a horror movie, but I think it did have a lesson or something of some sort. But I'll let you go watch it for yourself. Or I think I saw clips of it, bits of it, and I was horrified and terrified. I don't think I was terrified as hell, but I was horrified though. I was like, ugh, a movie. But yeah, Cantarella's body was just the whole discourse that there ever was. And then there are many examples like Cantarella. I think there was one example of Mitsuri. Now in Demon Slayer, and of course you're going to argue that, but she has a particular reason for why her outfit is designed like that. But You can give an excuse for that. Obviously, you can, but I do feel like it is more for fan service than it is related to any particular reason. I feel like they just decided, oh, we need an element of fan service. I could be wrong. Let me clarify. I could be wrong, but some decisions I believe that mangakas or animators do make when it comes to characters who didn't originally have that kind of situation, but they're like, oh, well, we need to sell these books and we cannot unless you provide some kind of fan service. And where does that fan service work mostly? It's appalling when you think about it as such. You know, like how you automatically want to cater to the male gaze, to the male fan service, you know, to appease them. And your first thought is, okay, let me like give this character a grope at the chest or an upskirt, you know, so her bottom is showing, or like her cleavage is spilling out, or somebody's face gets stuck into her cleavage by accident, or she just bends over just like that. And most of it is covered with humor. And it's even more appalling the fact that they have to use humor as a crutch to kind of normalize objectification in that kind of context and be like, but it's funny, you guys. It's so funny when she does this dumb thing of like bending over for the rest of the people to see. It is this exact objectification that I'm talking about. It is so blatant and so... I'm laughing at this because it looks like, you know, what can I say? I'm laughing at this, but I'm pretty mad. I'm very mad at this. But I am also going to use humor as a crutch for myself. Because if I'm not laughing, you bet I am angry. I am angry. Anyhow, now I like watching reaction videos, but I kid you not, every reaction video that I've watched, and when it comes to, we're talking about Demon Slayer, so when it comes to that particular Mitsuri scene of hot springs and a bit more, I kid you not, I see the content creators' reactions or the reactors' reactions, and I can see the exact moment in which I see her dignity being stripped to nothing but an object to be feasted, to be devoured on. I see it. You might be thinking, oh, well, Nor, you're looking in too deep. Well, I can look at the surface and also ignore things, but I choose not to. I'm someone who observes a lot. And even if it's minute, I am pretty sensitive to these things like facial cues, all of the like body languages. I cannot ignore that. So I can map it out in the videos where that exact moment comes, because I'm so sensitive to those points, so in tuned, where I can see the character's dignity being stripped to their very core and essentially being treated as nothing but an objectified, you know, I don't know, piece of meat or something. And I see this happening in games a lot as well. And I cannot help but look at, you know, this culture that's rampant everywhere, because you're looking at not just the characters in the game. You also have then a tendency to look at people in real life with the same gaze. And they make jokes out of that as well, not to mention. And those jokes are so crude sometimes. They're so bad that you would have to think like, okay, are you like sane right now? Like, are you okay? Have you never seen a person before? Or do you want to objectify this person because it somehow satiates your desires? I don't know. So Now, I'm not saying that men don't go through objectification. I think I mentioned in the last video that men also are objectified. But there's a huge difference between that objectification and this objectification. Some of it, although I would like to make a little, you know, disclaimer or sorts, that some of the objectification is wrong. I definitely do think that, but objectification of men by far and large are more done so on the basis of hyper masculine images that were perpetuated by men themselves. Men themselves. Like, oh, you need to have a good body to be something. I think that's, although I feel like that's also relevant to women, maybe it's done by women themselves to some extent, but not to this kind of an extent. The sexualization and the objectification that has happened over centuries, over history of years and years, you cannot like even put into account how much that is, because it's going on from as long as I can remember, as long as we've seen. Women were sold as slaves to satisfy desires and needs and stuff. So that too, now you compare to recent and maybe just like a 0.25% of objectification that happens. The severity also makes a difference, by the way. The severity, the long-term duration, nobody thinks of that at all. I am against any kind of objectification that removes people's agencies, that puts them in a horrible place. Now, I will take this also since we're talking about male objectification, I would like to bring up the example of Scar. So, because I used Cantrella as an objectification, I think it's only fair to bring up Scar. So Scar had this little thing on his crotch, like a zipper that looked like an onigiri belt. And people made fun of that. I think people were like, ha ha ha, oh, Scar this, Scar that. And honestly, I thought that was pretty like wrong, but I wasn't playing the game back then. I was not making YouTube videos. I was not playing the game back then. I was like, that is, but I did keep up with the news. I was like, that is pretty messed up. And they immediately removed it. Like, the moment it came to light, the developers immediately removed. They spent no time like dilly-dallying around it. They removed it immediately. And then I saw no one talking about that. I saw no men raising an issue with that. Nobody said, oh, that is wrong. Like, Scar shouldn't have been objectified. And I'm glad that they removed that. Nobody said that. But, and here's the big kicker. I made a video on Gacha Talks, called Gacha Talks. And I basically was explaining the whole timeline of my experience with Gacha games and Hoyoverse games, and then I spoke a little about Wuthering Waves. And then I added a little segment where I said I was interested in the Wuthering Waves story since there were rave reviews about it, but Cantrella's objectification turned me off. And there was this guy who commented, you can probably go read both the comments and the video and take a look for yourself. I'm like, it's there, so you can go check out both the comments and the video. So that guy was so appalled at the fact that I even mentioned Cantrella's objectification. It was like, I don't know, I don't want to say like throwing a tantrum, but that is what it felt like a pity party, like a tantrum, like how dare you not talk about men's objectification and the fact that their abs got sexualized. And I'm like, sir, do you even know what I'm talking about? You took this little segment and completely blew it without understanding the context, like the heaviness of this topic. And I'm talking about systemic bias, systemic, women made to be laughed at, made to be ridiculed, to be mocked, thrown a mockery at, to be, nothing but bodies for centuries. And you're telling me that they show abs for these characters. By the way, Zhang Liao, another character, he was treated very well by the game, like Wuthering Waves. He was treated very well. He was given such a good character trailer that I was impressed. I was like, I wasn't even playing the game at that time, but I wanted to go back into the game just so I can get him, because of how they gave him that kind of an agency, right? They did not make him look objectified. They did not. And the only other character that they did that with was Jinshi. They marketed her in such a way that was not objectionable, that didn't reduce her agency or anything into just simply a flesh model, for the lack of a better term. Apologies. So they did that, and I was like, do you see the severity? That is what I was talking about in the video, that I made. And this person, out of the entire, like, I understand that you think that male objectification needs to be talked about. Then do it. Why aren't you there doing it? Why didn't you raise your voice when Scar was objectified for the whole onigiri situation? You didn't say anything about that. But exactly when I need to talk about women's objectification is where your voice suddenly gets amplified to talk about, but men's abs. Darn it. It is so much more objectified. For years, men's abs were sexualized and objectified, and women's cleavage was just ignored. I feel you. I hear you. Honestly. At this point, it just seems like a big cruel joke. It's like, if you had such a big problem about men's abs being objectified and their biceps, which is, by the way, not even a comparison at this point. There is no comparison there. But since you want to talk about it, then you should absolutely talk about it. Like, why not? Like, go make a video on it, sure. I've already spoken about Scar's onigiri, so I think you should do your part and make a video on how abs are sexualized and objectified. I'm sure you'll be able to come up with something valid. Definitely. And I look forward to it. I actually do look forward to it. But anyhow, I need to make another point, and I will conclude this video. Another point then goes back to, well, men need something to gawk at. Okay. I read this comment on one of the videos. I think I mentioned it in the comment when I was when I made the male validation video. It was about this person saying, well, men are evolved to want that. Like, men are evolved in that way, where men are the visual creatures and they've been evolved since birth to want that. And I looked at it and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I can't believe I'm reading that. But, well, you've got to be kidding me, because are you seriously saying that men are visual creatures, so they need something to gawk at? And what better to gawk at than women's bodies being objectified? Like, they need that objectification because men are evolved that way, okay? So that was the excuse. And I was like, are you for real? Because, okay, let's talk about objectification, right? You say that men are evolved in that sense. Okay. Then what are women evolved to be? Just made for consumption? Just glorified, objectified bodies? Nothing else? Just tools? Okay. What about women being visual creatures? You could say that women and then the whole idea of women objectifying men or their abs becomes obsolete, because you say that women are not visual creatures. All they require is, romantic fantasies. And then maybe they'll look at other things. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. So, women are not visual creatures. then why are the allies and lads made to be good looking if they are not? And then why is there any complaint of, well, men's abs get objectified by women? That would become a complete obsolete statement. So I need explanation as to how both of these are possible. Like, how do you say that women are not visual creatures, and then you go on to say, well, women objectify biceps and abs to such gross, extent. So why is Xavier the way he looks? Why is Silas the way he looks? Why Caleb? Well, the developers would not even have to spend anything on creating. They could just create ugly as the characters, allies, and just say that, well, you only care about visual romance, so you only care about, fantasy and romance, and that's what we're giving you. No need to get any handsome guys. No need to think about abs and whatnot. The biggest difference is, I feel like, when you look at, even in Tears of Themis, these people have agencies. These characters have agencies. They're not overly sexualized. They're not objectified. They have depth. They have nuance. They're not reduced to just their abs. And you see that. And the biggest I don't know how this has been sold to everyone, the fact that women are not visual creatures. It's horrendous of an excuse, because that's like saying, well, we can just take anything. It's fine. But when it comes to women, we don't mind being objectified and reduced to mere objects just because we need something to satisfy for men. Like, we have to satisfy their visual thirst. Hence, we should be reduced to mere objects. Okay, then that kind of completely renders my video useless. And why not do it in real life as well? Like, why limit yourself to just be an online devourer? Just do that in real life. Why bother thinking about your leering gaze would make women uncomfortable? After all, women are just pre-packaged as objects, right? To quench and satisfy the thirst and hunger for men. So that's fine, completely fine. And of course, there was another comparison in the same comment where it said, because men are evolved that way, and because, well, men prefer OnlyFans and brothels to women who prefer fantasy. And I was like, do you see the vast difference of comparison you're doing between two things? You're talking about something as heavy as a brothel and something as light as a romantic, romantic fantasy. That is your comparison. I'm not even going to say anything. You just decide by yourself what you'd like to think about this comparison. On the surface, it looks like they're trying to justify that, oh, well, women have this, so men have this, and it's completely fine. But the comparison is crazy. And you only see that when you dig deep into what is not being said in between the lines. On the surface, it looks like, oh, there is an equality here. But if you really go deep dive into that comment, then you see, okay, what equality are we talking about? Anyways, I'll let you be the judge of that. One of the points that I forgot to mention in the earlier part of my video that I'm going to do now is GTA. Now, GTA I mentioned in the previous video, and this is going to be a personal opinion. I hate GTA. This is my very personal opinion. I hate GTA for what it stands for, what it symbolizes. The fact that you can run over like strippers and hookers and do all sorts of bullshit and stuff, I hate it. And hate is a strong word that I don't use often or at all. Under like very specific circumstances do I actually say that I hate something. And I hate GTA. And just because a game is popular doesn't take away from the fact that it's horrible in the way it portrays certain things, and I'm not up for it. And I'm not scared of standing up for my own opinion of absolutely despising that game. Anyhow, you could say that, well, it's just a game, it's okay, they're probably giving you an avenue to do all the things you cannot do in real life in a game. Like, so what? You run over a bunch of NPCs, you run over a bunch of strippers, hookers, you run over like people of law enforcement. It's fine, right? Okay, you can torture people. I believe that there was one torture scene where the character pulls out the teeth from some guy to extract information. It's fine, right? Okay, sure, let's excuse that game for the guise of being a game. Then what do we have? You know what's the latest news that I've read recently, that I was browsing and I came across that news? There is a simulator that there's a game that's a simulator that actually simulates sexual abuse. The R word. You literally get to R word a bunch of women. And that's a simulator. That's a game. And you know what the premise of that game is? Your mother left you for some other man, or just left you. Okay? And now you get to take revenge by R-wording a group of, female characters. You can subdue them, dominate them, torture them, all of that stuff. Repeatedly. That is the premise of an actual game on Steam that women who got to know banded together and got it off after a while. Like, it took quite a while for Steam to kick that game off, but it's very much a game. And it was liked. It had over like 1 million likes or something like that, but the likes were quite high. You think for yourself a game is a game, and excuse that. Why not? Why not excuse it? It's just a game, right? It's just a game. Yes, it's a simulator that simulates sexual abuse, but like, so what? So what? It's just a game. I mean, surely they do not even think about doing that in real life, right? Surely. Take a moment and think about it deeply. Because this does not end at just a game. In 2014, there was a mass harassment campaign called the Gamers Gate. 2014 Gamers Gate campaign, online mass harassment campaign. Because two women, one of them was a developer, took offense to some misogynistic portrayal of a particular character in a game, a particular female character in the game. And you know what they did for that? They rioted. They sparked such a big, massive online harassment campaign that it shook the gaming industry. They had people like, what the heck is going on? They had developers like stand up, sit up straight and be like, what on earth is going on in this industry? What is happening? They had to come up with open letters to band together and stop it because it was going to the heights. And following a similar case, there was a Korean developer, okay? The game was a hit, everything fine. Players loved it. The player base absolutely loved it. And then what happened next? There was some kind of a summer patch. Not a summer patch, but there was, like how you come up with character outfits. There was this outfit that had like, that was a bit modest, okay? It just covered up like a nice, like modest outfit that did not like show like cleavage spilling out and stuff. It was a dress. And guess what happened to the company? They were sent threatening death letters for that. Like, the player base got together, they sent death letters, they sent they wanted the developer, that one particular developer, to get fired. As soon as they got to know that it was a woman, they made sure that not only she was fired, but she was harassed like crazy, she was doxxed, she was unemployable for quite a while. Even when she moved on to some other game, they followed her all the way through. And they made her life a living hell, a misery. All because their like precious little character was clothed instead of naked. That's what happened. When you look at Twitch streamers, when you look at esports players who are all female, what happens? They get groped out in public. They get, which is not essentially Twitch streamer problem. It happens everywhere. But I'm speaking in context of this particular, area. They get, sent a slurry of thirst comments with like the most vilest comment. They're made to perform, they're made to act in a certain way to fulfill the fantasies of, male gamers or fellow male watchers or whatever. Like, perform for me like you are a marionette, like a little doll, like an object. So forgive me for being passionate about this, but I will be, and I'm not backing down from anything and everything that I've said. I would like to make this last point about women objectifying women. Yes, let's be honest, that also exists. Women also objectify women. But let's unpack that a bit. When you've been from birth, you've seen your gender being objectified for centuries, for years, I think it's bound to bleed in the psyche. So yes, women objectify women too. Sometimes because we've been conditioned to see it as normal or fun. Sometimes because it gives us a sense of agency in a world that constantly sexualizes us. But we have to ask, when we cheer for these designs, when we defend them, are we genuinely celebrating agency? Or are we caught in a system that teaches us to be grateful for crumbs of visibility, even if it comes at the cost of our dignity? We have such internalized male gaze, which is why the Margaret Atwood quote really hits hard. It really strikes a chord. And whenever that kind of treatment is given to female characters where they're blatantly objectified and stripped of their dignity and laughed at and made jokes and mockery out of that sexualization and objectification, you know how I feel? I feel like that is happening to me. Like I am part of that degradation of degradation and dehumanization of that character. I am also that character. In a way, I'm also reduced to that character. Because if that happens to a character, that also rampantly happens elsewhere in real life. And I cannot help but feel disgusted. Like I get goosebumps of disgust, of this strange, I cannot explain how disgusting that is. Do you know our faith is like the Ouroboros? Ouroboros is a serpent that eats its own tail. So I find our faith and our gender to be something of the Ouroboros, where we eat our own tail, where we cannot win. If you sexualize yourself and think of empowering yourself through sexualization, it somehow benefits men all over again. It's like, oh, you're sexualized, but this works in my favor because I get to devour you like an object all over again. So I don't know how that works, but yeah, you cannot seem to win anything in this situation. It's like you do this, you act like a prude. You try to empower yourself through sexualization, you get devoured like an object. So, can never overlook that. My eyes feel like they're trained to see those eyes that devour women like they're objects, like they're feast, like they're meat. I see that in the eyes of those people and I cannot unsee them. Ever. Anyhow. And that kind of feels like a curse. Maybe it's a curse for someone who's highly sensitive. And I just happen to be that kind of a person who gets that deeply affected, unfortunately for me. But anyhow, I hope that you guys are able to share your perspectives with warmth and kindness. My comment section is open for you guys to enlighten me and other people, and let's share that sense of community once again. Also, please take care of yourselves. Be happy and healthy, and yeah, please stay safe. It's very, very important. Stay safe, whether you're online or offline. Please be very, very mindful of your surroundings. That's my cat. I don't know if you can hear my cat, but yeah, please be mindful of your surroundings and be demure. That is if you want to be demure. But yeah, please be mindful, stay safe, drink plenty of water if you are experiencing summer, because some of you are, I guess, on the other side of the world, could be experiencing winter. In that case, stay warm, and those people are experiencing summer, stay cool always. And I hope you win all these cards and 50/50s that you absolutely deserve. Once again, take care of yourselves. This is Nori signing off from Love and Deep Space.